one, especially the president, is above the law. No one, especially the president, is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Good morning, Owasso. This is Chad with Owasso Live, and this is the Morning Loop. As you saw there, no one is above the law except for Democrats. They are above the law. They are better than you. As you can see, like I said, Trump is going viral right now for posting that video of AI video of Obama being arrested in the White House and then being sent to jail. And that was the big breaking news over this last weekend was Tulsi Gabbard releasing unclassifying documents that show that Obama was basically like spying on Donald Trump and helped manufacture the Steele dossier, which made it to where they could investigate him for being in collusion with Russia. So, as we've been talking about for years, we've been talking about this for years, the fact that the Steele dossier was just manufactured by Hillary Clinton and the Obamas to be able to wiretap Donald Trump and his campaign. So, again, it's the craziest thing in the world to me, the fact that, we're still having to talk about this. And the fact that, that liberals will still, close their ears, shut their eyes, and just pretend like it's not happening. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But that's what we're going to be talking about today, and we'll start off with the tweet heard around the world, or I should say truth posted around the world. Obama himself manufactured the Russia hoax. Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe, and numerous others participated in this. The crime of the century, irrefutable evidence, a major threat to our country. And, of course, the mainstream media is ignoring it and pretending that this isn't the case. And are we surprised at this point? The legacy media, besides Fox News, is all in the pockets of the Democratic Party. At least even if they're not, the people there are so heavily biased that they're never going to write a good thing about Republicans ever and only talk about how great Democrats are. So we'll get back to this and we'll get into the article that kind of started it all. Tulsi Gabbard details bombshell claims of Obama-era treasonous conspiracy against Donald Trump. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, detailed striking findings from the declassified documents released Friday, claiming to showcase overwhelming evidence that the Obama-era cabal laid the groundwork for what was years-long Trump-Russia collusion probe after 2016 election. The implications of this are nothing short of historic, Gabbard said on this week's Sunday's morning features. Over 100 documents that we released on Friday will detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office after President Trump had already gotten elected. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that is so serious it should be concern every single American because it has because it has to do with the integrity of the Democratic Republic, she continued. Documents shared by Gabbard's office claim that before the 2016 election, there was no evidence showing that Russia tried to directly alter vote counts. However, a member of the intelligence community later suggested that the Russia President Vladimir Putin wanted to help Trump win. Gabbard argues that the narrative shift was politically motivated rather than based on new findings. Creating this piece of manufactured intelligence that claimed that Russia had helped Trump get elected contradicted every other assessment that had been made previously in the months leading up to the election, and that it's exactly the opposite, that Russia had neither the intent nor the capability of trying to hack the United States election. Gabbard told the host, Maria Balteramo, whatever her name is. Effect of what President Obama and his senior national security team did was subvert the will of the American people undermining the Democratic Republic and enacting what would be essentially years-long coup against President Trump, who was duly elected by the American people. Yeah, it's like Democrats, the last few times that the Democrats have had elections is all about not democracy. For a party that says that they're democratic, all of their recent elections have been nothing to do with being democratic. You could argue Obama was the last time a Democrat was duly elected. Because in 2016, when Trump first came in, they were hamstringing things. They were trying to get people off the stage. They were literally buying people off. They bought Bernie Sanders off. He pulled out, and they were basically just shoving Hillary Clinton in our face. Like, if there's a party of oligarchs right now, it's the Democrats. And then we had, who was it? I said Biden. Biden got in. Same thing with him. Like, he's just literally an Obama clone. Like, everybody, he just ran him on Obama's legacy. And then we had Kamala Harris, which they had no primary for. There was no primary. There's like, it's going to be Kamala. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was Kamala is it. The Democrats have betrayed everything about being democratic in their last, 3 elections. So it's insane to me that they even call themselves the Democratic Party anymore. They might as well just be called the Authoritarian Party, in my opinion. So the effect of what President Obama and his senior national security team did was subvert the will of the American people, undermining the Democratic Republic and enacting what would essentially be a years-long coup against President Trump, who was duly elected by the American people. Evidence released by Gabbard's office implicated that the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, former CIA John Brennan, former Director of the FBI James Comey, and former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, among others, in the addition to the former president. The Gabbard confirmed that the intel sent all the undercover documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI for criminal referral. When asked if she expects to see prosecution, she vowed to do all that she can do to ensure accountability. We have whistleblowers actually coming forward now that we've released these documents, because there are people who are around who were working within the intelligence community at the time who were disgusted by what happened. We're starting to see some of them come out of the woodwork here because they wanted to see justice delivered. There must be indictments. Those responsible, no matter how powerful they are, were at that time, no matter who was involved in creating this treasonous conspiracy against the American people, they all must be held accountable. Some Democrats, including Rep. Jim Himes from Connecticut, who was a top member of the party House Intelligence Committee, have criticized Gabbard's claims as baseless. Fox News Digital previously reached out to Obama's representatives for former President Clapper, Comey, Brennan, Rice, Lynch, and McCabe for comment and did not receive a response. Yeah. They said you need to plead the fifth. I mean, everybody in the Democratic Party would be pleading the fifth right now to this. So that's insane. That is absolutely insane. So I'm going to pull up Trump's big talk about it on this from ABC News. Trump accuses Obama of treason in the Oval Office. And we'll check this video out real quick.
Sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt. The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they, look, he's guilty. It's not a question, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there, he's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries.
Yep. Like you manufacture a whole dossier about your political
gears
opponent.
now
No,
to the Justice.
no. It's about your political opponent, so that way you can wiretap them. I mean, we're talking that's a Watergate level scandal. Again, this is what I tell everybody. If Democrats were like, yes, Richard Nixon should have dropped out of the presidency after the Watergate, and that's a good thing that happened. And you're like, okay. So now then you must agree that Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden should be held culpable for spying on Donald Trump. If you don't believe that, then you're a hypocrite, because that means what Nixon did fails in comparison to what Barack Obama did. It's insane. Absolutely insane. Let me see if there's anything in this little article. Days after posting fake. Yeah, this is just a very short little summary of talking about all that. But the big kind of pushback against this is everyone saying this is him trying to, cover up the fact that they haven't released the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, which I can see that. But again, I fall under the category of if Trump's name was in the Epstein files, they would have released it. And there's like a huge talk about that all over the internet right now. Is like that's what everybody's kind of talking about. Right? I think I have that meme in here somewhere. There it is, right there. Yep. If there was a smoking gun on Epstein, why didn't the Democrats who controlled the files for 4 years and had Garland and Comey in charge use it? Because they had nothing. That's true. If Trump's name was on that list and they could have stopped him from running for president, they would have released his name being on that list. If there was any type of thing that showed any kind of malfeasance that he was doing. Because other than the fact that he rode on his plane once, that's about it. So there's not a lot to go on when it comes to Trump on the Epstein files, but that's the big conspiracy theories. Everyone's like, since Trump really screwed up the Epstein files, he's just trying to shift the blame to Obama, which you could argue that. I mean, that's not a bad argument, but at the same time, it's like, hey, why didn't your presidents, Obama or Biden, release any of this stuff? They were there. I mean, the whole Jeffrey Epstein scandal kind of broke back during the Obama administration. Maybe even during the Bush administration, because the whole Epstein little documentary on Netflix, I watched that on Netflix. Oh, I mean, a long time ago now. It's been at least 3 or 4 years ago now, talking about how they discovered that stuff about Epstein back in the early 2000s. And all the media people told them to kill the story. Kill the story. I mean, that's what that whole Netflix documentary is about. But we're getting into the memes kind of now. See if there's anything else largely. Oh, yeah. Then the mainstream media, other than just saying it's a cover-up or Trump trying to basically just, saying he's a cover-up for the Epstein stuff, the mainstream media has been completely silent on all this stuff. But it's going to show you because, as I always tell everybody, the mainstream media, besides Fox News, at least all the television show mainstream media outlets, anything that's on TV, not talking independent content that comes on, YouTube or from YouTubers or any other online sources, anyone that is left-wing outlet, which pretty much every single news outlet that's on TV is left-wing besides Fox News, are all not talking about this story. Or if you look at their stories, they say that it's a hoax. Like I said, baseless claims, all these things. You're putting your bias into the story. That's how you know that journalism has failed. because you're just supposed to report on events that happen. The story should just be Tulsi Gabbard releases documents about Obama, we'll just say Russia hoax, whatever. That's what all these story titles should say. But they've put bias into it, into the title. That's how you know. It goes, Tulsi Gabbard released baseless hoax, or baseless claims that Obama was in charge of the, Steele Dossier or whatever. That's what's going on here. It's bad news all around for us when the media when the media journalists who claim to be, the arbiters of truth are heavily tilted to one side. If you're just given the news and the facts, it should read as the most boring title in the world. Unless it is like a expose piece, like what James O'Keefe does, like where you're exposing corruption or something like that. Then the title can be a little, your title can be, I'd say, a little bit more like, attention grabbing. But if you're just saying facts, that's why the news was so boring back in the day, was because nobody wanted to read it, because it's like, here's the facts, blocked down, very boring stuff, very dry. So then they started doing it to where, let's get our takes in this. And like I said, we're basically, every single news piece now, I swear, is opinion journalism now, because there is a bias, or they're putting their opinion about it in the title, in the article, whatever. Or the worst fact, they have a misleading title and or start of the article, and at the very bottom of the article, it actually says the exact opposite of what they've been arguing the whole time. That's been happening a lot too. So we'll get into the memes now, because that's pretty much it. It's like all these people have been extremely quiet on all this, and they have, according to this article here, there was no news organizations that talked about it on their shows. They only wrote articles. There hasn't been a mainstream outlet that has been talking about, at least at the time that this article was published, which we'll see when this was published real quick. Let's see here. July 22nd. So yesterday. So there were no news programs or shows that talked about it on their shows. But articles were released, which goes to show you they don't care, because not everybody reads, as we know, unfortunately. All right. Then we'll get over to the memes. Like I said, we're talking about election integrity. We're talking about the Russia hoax. Let's talk about this here. Where did my Russia hoax one go? Yes. Scott Jennings. Wrecking CNN as usual.
Well, Joe Biden said his uncle was eaten by cannibals, so I guess we'll have to compare uncle stories.
There's that too, absolutely. Talk to me about it. Why is that more concerning than what has happened this week? He didn't even remember appointing his own Fed chair.
Here's my view of the medical situation of this president versus the last one. This president has a doctor who is issuing very transparent letters about this president's health. Okay. The former president has a doctor who's taking the Fifth Amendment before Congress right now because he doesn't want to answer questions about it. I've been around him. I have detected nothing. I've seen nothing but a man conducting 6 meetings at the same time.
You sound like Joe Biden's aides who said, I've been around him.
Yeah. And I'm not taking the Fifth Amendment in front of Congress.
I'm just saying that by your own metric, if this were Joe Biden, and perhaps it was when he said his uncle
He's working 20 hours a day.
By
He does
cannibals.
hours of press conferences every day. Abby, are you saying Donald Trump is not visible as president, and it's anywhere comparable to Biden's hiding for 4 years?
I'm not saying any of those things. I'm just asking why he didn't remember that he appointed the Fed chair in 2017 and stood in the Rose Garden with him and appointed him. Why didn't he remember that?
I think this might be the most fun nothing burger I've seen in a while.
Oh, yeah?
You have transparency from the White House saying that there's an issue, and here it is. Thank goodness we've got that back, number one. Number two, no one's having to lie on his behalf and cover it up. They're not having to plan meetings around certain times when he's cognitive and then give him a nap time in the middle of the day and saying he works 4 hours a day. Donald Trump literally works 10, 12, 15, 18, 20 hours a day, constantly flying all over the place. There are days
20 hours a day.
Yes, there are.
20 hours a day. There's Kool-Aid on the side of your. Are you serious?
He tweets all night long. Do you not see it?
Look, what has been
all of those things are.
Joe Biden said.
Yeah. Trump is literally not hiding. Biden did not do press conferences. He didn't do jack. That's the difference. And then they're pretending like, oh, us taking your word for it from meeting him doesn't mean anything because that's what they did last time. That's what all Biden's aides did last time. And that's what all of our news people said about Biden when they went to go interview him. It's like, yeah, but Trump is literally like on TV or being seen and being photographed like 24/7. Biden was literally MIA as president for most of his 4 years. That's the difference. And they're just pretending like it's the exact same thing that happened with Biden last year. This is what drives me nuts about the freaking press. It's insane. It is absolutely insane. And then, yeah, here it is right here. The cover-up continues. Former Biden aide Annie Tomashi, or whatever her name is, has also pleaded the fifth to testify on who was running the White House during Biden's presidency. So let's see if there's any sound or audio with this. Again, this is a repost from Libs of TikTok.
We've got some breaking news right now. We were watching the testimony of this woman here, Annie Tomasini. She's the former senior advisor to President Joe Biden. She was the third person set to appear before James Comer's committee. She has now taken the fifth. So the doctor, the aide to Joe Biden, and now Ms. Tomasini have all done the same behind closed doors. Now, James Comer is the chairman of the committee, the Republican out of Kentucky. He said this in a statement. It's a long statement. I'll just read one line. There is now a pattern of key Biden confidants seeking to shield themselves from criminal liability for this potential conspiracy. End quote there. We'll see who goes next. They have put out a series of videos later in the day of their witnesses pleading the fifth and sitting next to their attorneys. I would imagine Comer's committee is going to do the same thing at some point today as well. So that's the latest from the Hill. Republicans trying to get something, and they were left with pretty much nothing today. Now this. We've got some.
Yeah. Insane. Absolutely insane. I cannot stress that enough, that the fact that they just keep pleading the fifth. The doctors pled the fifth to Congress, his doctors. So this goes to show you there's some unscrupulous things happening right now. And like they keep talking about like election integrity and Russia hoax nonstop. And that's what the next one I pulled up here is J.D. Vance talking with, I forget this dude's name. What is his name? Jake Tapper. That's it. Old freaking Jake Tapper, who was one of the acolytes of the Biden administration for years. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, he comes out with his book saying, they kept the secrets from us, whereas he was the biggest defender of Joe Biden's cognitive abilities.
You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI was investigating it, and so we recovered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again. A viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016.
No.
That was totally and preposterously false.
No.
Well, that's
what you just said is
why.
false. President Trump has gone to, quote, extraordinary lengths to keep specifics about his meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin secret, even keeping them from top members of his own administration. Take a listen to how President Trump responded Saturday night when asked directly if he has ever worked for Russia.
I think it's the most insulting thing I've ever been asked. I think it's the most insulting article I've ever had written.
The president did not directly answer the question. It's a stunning turn of events. Do you think the president of the United States ever worked on behalf of the Russians against American interests?
You guys talked about the Russia hoax.
Yeah. The Russia hoax. They talked about that crap nonstop. Nonstop. That was every day was the Russia hoax. Talking about how our election was literally stolen from us because the Russian interference. Let's look at interference in an election. That right there, that little graph right there of the Biden freaking election is interference. Because every election before then has that curve, that little red natural curve right there. And then Biden's was a natural curve too, up until like 1 or 2 in the morning, all of a sudden shoots right up. That is election interference right there. That is what election interference looks like. No other election has had something like that ever. And if they think that the Russian interference in our election was so bad, wouldn't having IDs and paper ballots again be the best thing for us so that way they can't access the internet and hack into it? This is why this is so stupid, why Democrats don't want to have paper ballots and IDs. You should literally have your driver's license, something, I don't care, like maybe even 2 forms of ID, like your driver's license, social security card, I don't care, like your a government ID if you're part of the service or something like that, even your gun, even your concealed carry thing, like 2 forms of ID, vote. That should be it. Paper ballots, 2 forms of ID, you're voting. That way we solve half of our problems right there. That would never have happened. They couldn't be talking about our election got hacked if we had paper ballots and we had photo IDs. That is absolutely insane. That Democrats are completely opposed to that. This is why right here. This is absolutely why. It's so stupid, the fact that they will say, oh, but certain minority groups can't get IDs. Like, who doesn't know how to drive a car? Who can't get access to a DMV? The only thing you could say is the people making it hard to get government IDs is the DMV, which is the government itself, because you have to pay for your ID. So stupid. So freaking stupid. All right, we'll go on to the next one here. We'll do that one later. Here is, yes, it is Tulsi. This is Tulsi Gabbard talking about the whole incident that went down. I should have probably started
that
with
doesn't
this
just affect Democrats or Republicans. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue with such significant impact that it should concern every American, because it has to do with the fabric and integrity of our democratic republic. That we had a situation here where in the months leading up to the 2016 election, the intelligence community assessed, and this is what the documents detail, the intelligence community assessed essentially Russia doesn't have the tools, the capability, or the intent to try to change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Donald Trump pulls off a historic victory against Hillary Clinton in November of 2016. Even in the days after that election, the intelligence community continued their consistent assessment that reflected the same thing in the months leading up to the election. All of a sudden, in the early days of December, there was a president's daily brief that was drafted. This is put together by the different elements of the intelligence community that reflected that same assessment. Russia did not try to hack the election, in essence. That PDB, that document, was pulled hours before it was supposed to be published for the president to see that following morning. That document was never published until we released it yesterday. One day later, President Obama calls a meeting of his National Security Council, his top officials, to be held on what they called a sensitive topic. And the results of that meeting, which we released yesterday, and these over 100 documents that talk about in detail how President Obama and his team, he directed a manufactured piece of intelligence that detailed not if, but how Russia tried to influence the outcome. That doesn't just affect Democrats or Republicans. It's
Yeah. I think it's great that she released that stuff. And again, if you think what Richard Nixon did was bad, this is equally as bad. And there it is. Here's the meme that I was just about to bring up about that. Richard Nixon monitored his political opponents' phone calls, sent spies into their campaign, used the FBI to investigate them, and then covered it up. So did Barack Obama. Again, if you think that what Richard Nixon did was bad, but Barack Obama and all his cabinet members, Hillary Clinton, Biden, all these people, including all their 3-letter organizations chiefs that they had, are all culpable in this. So, yeah, absolutely insane. At least Nixon had the moral fortitude to, back out of the presidency. Whereas Obama and all them didn't. And they actually tried, Hillary Clinton tried to run for president, and Biden did get his presidency because of that. Insane. Absolutely insane. says, Obama awarded Nobel Peace Prize for exemplary work in planning Russia collusion hoax, the Babylon Bee. And they crush it as usual. The Babylon Bee is great. Keep doing what you're doing, Babylon Bee. All right, let's keep looking. Okay, Obama agrees that he can't be charged with treason since he wasn't born in America. Yeah, this is what happens when you elect a guy that hates America, basically. We're going to fundamentally change America. If you fundamentally want to change something, you never liked it to begin with. Yeah, insane. In solidarity with Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel vows not to tell any funny jokes until the late night show is reinstalled. Babylon Bee again. Man, they are good. I love the Babylon Bee. Oh, I love this one right here. Don't tell me that Obama can't be arrested. It's Trump's mugshot with all his lawyers that all got arrested. Remember, Trump's lawyers got arrested. That's unheard of. I would never want to be a lawyer after that. If you can get arrested for helping your client as a lawyer, lawyers would never want to do a job. They're never going to take a case again. We always talk about that. Like, you're going to see lawyers like, I'm not touching this case. I won't touch it. Imagine getting charged as a lawyer for the crime of defending your client. There would be nobody that would ever want to be a defense attorney ever again. It's insane. Insane. All right. Oh, yeah. Here we go. They say, we didn't talk about that old Jake Tapper. We didn't talk about Russia collusion as much as you think we did.
Russia hacking the election to elect Trump is the end of our democracy. Votes were definitely affected. Russia hacked the election to tilt it to Mr. Trump.
The Russians definitively hacked the election.
Russia did hack the election. No doubt. The Russians hacked the election.
Yes. Russia hacked the election.
Fact, Russia hacked the election.
If you can get him to accept that Russia hacked the election, see if you can get him to accept who won the Civil War.
If he admits it, it casts a shadow on his victory over Hillary Clinton.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Let's be clear, Russia hacked the election.
Definitively, Russia hacked the election, and Russia is doing it again now.
Election-related cyber hacking.
Cyber hacking of U.S. elections. Cyber hacking of the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
The CIA, the FBI, NSA.
All of these intelligence organizations.
17 intelligence agencies.
All conclude that Russia hacked the election.
If we find out that Donald Trump just theoretically was colluding with Russia while they were hacking the election, that is completely impeachable.
This dossier alleged a conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russian effort to hack the election.
The director of national intelligence, the head of the National Security Agency, the head of the FBI, all of these intelligence experts saying Russia hacked the election.
The FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, I mean, they've all said this. So to believe that that's wrong, you have to believe they're all involved in an elaborate conspiracy to get Donald Trump, which seems a little far-fetched.
Russia hacking the election.
Yeah. And again, we want to talk about hacking elections again. Paper ballots, photo IDs to vote. Stop that real quick. That immediately put a stop to this whole hacking elections narratives. But Democrats don't want to do that. And for some reason, Biden's election was the most safest and secure election we ever had. Despite the fact just 4 years prior we had the most unsafe election in history that got hacked. What happened between then and now that made it more unsafe? The only thing that changed was mail-in voting was allowed. So, suspicious, very suspicious. All right. Oh, I love this one. This is from Dave Brown. Liberals, if we could just jail Trump, get rid of MAGA, end the Electoral College, stack the Supreme Court, ban voter ID, censor free speech, we could save democracy. That is the Democratic Party and the left-wing people's MO right now. That is a scary thought. but that is very true right now. Don't want voter ID. Voter ID would literally solve the whole election getting hacked issue. Said get rid of MAGA. They all talk about how, MAGA people need to be arrested. Jail Trump. Tried that already. Has his mugshot. Tried to bring up his misdemeanor charges, brought all of his misdemeanor charges together as one big lump sum and turned it into a felony, which is unheard of. Stacked the Supreme Court. They've been talking about that for forever. They're always trying to get all their members on the Supreme Court. Yeah. Ban free speech. They're always canceling people. The left is known for canceling people. The right boycotts. Boycott is not canceling. Boycott's like, oh, you have a very heavy political bias. We're not going to buy your product anymore because we don't want to buy a product from someone that hates us. Whereas Democrats like cancel them, debank them, deplatform them, never let these people work in public places ever again. That's the difference between the two. They're like, the left compares boycotting with canceling. The best thing about a boycott is as soon as the people stop doing what they're doing, the boycott will end. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing. Like Bud Light is kind of doing their little turnaround right now, bringing back, the whole funny comedians and more masculine people to do their Budweiser commercials or Bud Light commercials, with Shane Gillis and Post Malone. That's a turnaround. I'm seeing people starting to drink Bud Light again because of that, whereas I still haven't touched a Bud Light, but I don't drink pretty much anymore. But that's really about it. Like I said, this next one here is like Democrats, and like I said, they say that the right is the party of political violence. So here we have, imagine if these were Republican politicians making these claims right now. The left would be going freaking crazy. Check this out.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah. Democrats are so peaceful. We have the only incident that they can really point out are incidents of Proud Boys who are usually being attacked by Antifa people, and then January 6th. That's all they've got. That's all they've got on the right wing. So where's your guys' introspective look at yourselves when we pull up videos like that? where all your people and your politicians are calling for violence, doing violent rhetoric. If these were right-wing political commentators or politicians, they would be losing their stuff. We'd see CNN would be posting article after article and news things. How dare this politician make make speeches like this? That is truly evil. They need to be immediately impeached and removed from office. Whereas when their people do it, it's okay. Nothing to see here. But that's really all I've got for today. I'm going to play us out with this little funny AI-generated video of like the riots, the Trump riots that happened over this last, the whole No Kings and the anti-ICE protests. But I'll end it out with that. But that's pretty much all I've got for today. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Chad with Owasso Live. This was The Morning Loop. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you too can stay in the loop. But that is really all I've got for you today, everybody. I will catch you all on the next one. See you later, everybody.
I'm a farmer with the list. All the I'm a farmer with the list. All the listen.